Hello everyone, my name is Sridhar Kotagiri. I'm a platform product principal at ThoughtWorks Consulting. Today I'm very excited to talk to you about how to sustain investments in IDPs with a chargeback driven approach. If you're in a role where you're leading or owning an internal developer platform and trying to secure budget for it, you might have come across these comments from your stakeholders or leaders during the budgeting cycle. They may be thinking that we're spending too much money and we don't see the value yet. And they may say that let's allocate some minimum amount for now and see how it goes. And they might prefer to allocate more budget to the business capabilities as opposed to the internal developer platform capabilities. These are all valid concerns from the leadership and from the stakeholders. They want to make sure that the funds, which are always limited, are allocated to the high value capabilities that generate the most value for the organization. Platform capabilities, although they generate um, uh, greater value for the organization, it's not always easy to articulate and demonstrate that, right? So, how can we address all of these comments or concerns from the leadership and the stakeholders? Well, that's what this talk is about. So before we get into how can we address those comments and concerns, let's spend a couple of minutes talking about the challenges in sustaining or securing the investments for internal developer platforms. As we all know, internal developer platforms are enablers and they help product engineering teams to innovate and deliver business value faster. They don't have a direct way to generate the revenue, and they still need to demonstrate the value and justify the existence and sustain a continued investment in order to kind of evolve and deliver value for the entire organization. So, as we just talked about, demonstrating value may not be that straightforward. We may not have metrics and success criteria that directly attributes to the platforms, right? And we may not have all of the stakeholders supporting the budget or supporting investments in the platform capabilities or internet developer platforms. Stakeholders who are more technical understand the value and they may be willing to invest, but other stakeholders that may not be so close to the technology may not think so, and they might end up uh, allocating some insufficient budget, which obviously delays the full potential of the internet developer platform. And obviously, in that case, the organization would be incurring the opportunity cost. And they also get secondary treatment compared to the business features um, because of the value articulation problems with the internet developer platforms. So, how can we address these challenges, right? The very first step in that process is to show how the platform capabilities drive the business outcomes. Uh, we need to use something like this. This is a visual that connects the dots between the platform capabilities and the business outcomes. Here we can see the platform capability enabling the technical outcome, and a technical outcome enabling a business driver, and a business driver enabling business outcome, right? For instance, a CI/CD platform capability can enable faster pipeline development. When we have faster pipeline development, we would see reduced time to value, and with the reduced time to value, we will see a greater impact on the revenue. So we will be able to generate additional income for the organization. So when we are able to connect the dots like this and show how the business is impacted by the platform capabilities, it'll be easier for all of the stakeholders, whether they're technical or not technical, to appreciate how the platform capabilities come into play in driving value for the organization. Once we're able to do that, as a next step, we can introduce uh, a chargeback model. A chargeback model is helping or will help in changing the perception of the platform engineering team from being a support function to a growth driver. So it will make the platform engineering team a self-sustaining team rather than a cost center. It will also help change the perception of this team to being a strategic value driver rather than a supporting function. When we have some numbers associated with it, some chargeback and some revenue, internal revenue associated with it, the stakeholders will have um, some numbers just like the business features, and they'll be able to make informed decisions, right? And it will also, the chargeback model will also help build parity uh, with the business features. So we'll be able to compare the platform capabilities with the business capabilities, because when we are associating some internal revenue with the platform capabilities, we'll have some numbers to compare with the business capabilities. So, what's the chargeback model? It's a method of allocating costs and expenses incurred by the platform product to the product teams that are using the platform product, which is internal developer platform. It helps track and recover the costs associated with building the platform capabilities. And the goal here is not to make profit, but just to allocate or just to recover costs and incentivize the product teams to track their usage and optimize in enabling the innovation and growth for the organization. What are some key considerations that we need to keep in mind in building a chargeback model? uh, we need to make sure that it's not a P&L model, right? We need to understand that it's not a P&L model. Platform team is an internal facing team, and its mission is to enable and accelerate product engineering, but not to make profit unless the platform capabilities are offered external to the organization or made as a product that's sold outside of the organization. And the purpose is to recover costs only, so we should only focus on recovering the costs, just enough to support and sustain the investment and prioritization of the platform product, which is internal developer platform. And when we are building a chargeback model, we need to make sure that we are going with realistic adoption estimates. Adoption can vary based on the organization's maturity and the team's maturity, or maybe others number of other reasons, right? So we cannot be assuming that a platform product like internal developer platform would be adopted 100% by all the 100% of the teams. And we also want to make sure we are encouraging the early adopters. Adoption is key to drive value or to realize value out of the platform products. Hence, we don't want to be discouraging or creating an impediment for early adopters. So we should not be charging them unless we go to full GA with the platform capability. And the platform, I mean, the chargeback model needs to be simple enough and evolve with the organization and the changes in the organization. So while building one, what are the costs that we need to bake in, right? So licensing costs, obviously the platform tooling, there could be CI/CD tooling, security tooling, and SaaS-based services. So we need to account for all of those licensing costs, and then the infrastructure. So there could be compute resources, storage resources, and number of other cloud resources we may be using in building the platform capability. We should be considering those, and any on-premise hardware and networking that we are using, and developer costs, whether it is FTE and contractor costs. So how can we go about building one, right? Ideally, we want to make it a business outcome-based allocation model, right? So by using the platform capabilities, product engineering teams might have 20% increase in year-over-year revenue, or they may be able to reduce the lead time and reduce the lead time, make it faster by 2 times, or they might see 10x improvement in deployment frequency. So these are some examples. So when they are realizing these benefits, the business benefits, we want to allocate some of that benefit back to the platform capability. So this is an ideal way to implement a chargeback model in an organization. So not all organizations may have that level of maturity. In that case, while we are driving towards that level of maturity, we can fall back on these different strategies, right? The first is fixed allocation. It's the simplest form of chargeback model, where You just calculate the total cost of platform product in IDP, and then just divide it by the number of teams using it. This may be very simple to operationalize and implement as long as there is support in the organization, but it doesn't give you any usage based allocation. And the next is weighted allocation. So we can consider coarse grained adoption metrics or usage metrics like workloads, number of workloads deployed, or number of users using it, number of pipelines built on top of it. So this may offer some level of usage based allocation, but I mean it doesn't give us the complete flexibility. It may be our first step towards usage based allocation. And the last is the complete usage based allocation, where we track the fine grained usage, like at cloud resource level, storage level, individual platform capability level, or a license level, right? Then we can calculate the chargeback. And that's the most ideal one, but it obviously takes a lot of investment in tracking that level of fine grained usage. And we also need to consider that not all product engineering teams have same level of expertise, right? So some may have enough expertise to use the platform product or IDP by themselves without a lot of support, by just looking at the getting started, or maybe some APIs or so on and so forth. But some may need a greater support, like white glove support, or maybe they need a different level of support. So we need to be able to accommodate all kinds of teams with all kinds of expertise levels. So we need to make sure that we have different tiers of support, or different tiers of chargeback, to accommodate these varying team needs. And here is a simple chargeback model. Here we are assuming 50% adoption of IDP, and just calculating uh, the infrastructure cost at 50% adoption, and what is the development and maintenance cost for the platform. And we are assuming that there will be 100 workloads deployed onto something like maybe a container orchestration platform at 50% adoption. So we're just dividing the total cost by that like 100 workloads, and coming up with a workload per workload cost, and then allocating to the teams based on the number of workloads they're deploying on the platform. So this can be a simple sample model that you can kind of extend, or maybe you can create something like this, or maybe you can have a comprehensive chargeback model. So, what do we need to make sure that we have before operationalizing? What are those things that we must have to operationalize a chargeback model? The very first thing obviously is the usage metrics, right? So we need to be able to track those usage metrics and identify those metrics. What is it like? I mean, depending on the platform, if it's a container orchestration platform, Kubernetes based container orchestration platform, you might want to go with the number of workloads, or if it's a CI/CD platform, pipelines, right? And dashboards for for observability. So depending on the platform capability, you need to make sure that you're identifying those metrics. And then also on the adoption standpoint, you want to make sure that you're incentivizing the innovators and early adopters, so that the platform is adopted as soon as possible. Uh, so they're encouraging, the early adopters are encouraging the other teams in the organization. So we can provide greater level of support, and then we can just have them as part of our extended team. So increase the adoption, and do not charge the early adopters until we go to the full GA with the platform capability, right? And like we just discussed, we need to have those chargeback plans based on the usage levels, based on the features used, based on the varying adoption levels, right? So we need to make sure that we have different tiers to accommodate different types of teams. And when we are building one, or when we are operationalizing the chargeback model, we can take some real data and mock it, and then test it out for a month or so with a couple of teams before rolling it out to the entire organization. So how can we operationalize it completely and execute it smoothly, right? So one is to have open dialogue with the stakeholders, maintain complete transparency, and ensure that the chargeback calculations are clear, so that everybody can understand and appreciate. and take the feedback, make sure that we are accommodating the feedback frequently, and also automate the complete tracking of the usage and the billing and the chargeback and everything, right? So it should not be an impediment, it should not be a topic of discussion on a daily basis. And the teams, the product teams using the platform capability should be able to look at the dashboards, look at the reports to track their usage and optimize their usage. And on the other hand, the model needs to be flexible enough to change with the organization, change with the usage pattern, basically evolve with the organization. And it doesn't have to be dynamic, right? So it can you can review and revise the chargeback model on an yearly basis along with the budgeting cycle. That's all I have for you today. Thank you for your time. If you want to chat more, you can reach out to me on my email, my LinkedIn, or X. Thank you. Have a good rest of the conference.